Good morning, traders. Black Friday. Hey. Um, nice overview there, Mr. Kyle, the Kylester. Um, so it is Friday, thank God. Fridays are always fun. And of course, today uh, we have quadruple witching, which this quadruple witching comes 4 times a year. Comes on the third Friday of March, June, September, and December. Well, and it's because we have four different expirations going on. You've got the stock index futures, stock index options, and single stock futures. So it gets a little goofy, because they have to settle, and wherever they settle, of course, you, you could have good and bad settlements, but you get a little volatility, right? So, with that being said, let's get on here and take a look at these markets. We had some kind of a nice, crazy move yesterday. Let's take a look at this market profile. All right, so this is the ES. All right, and we've got some guests in the room, so I will also explain a couple things. So this is the market profile in the S&P 500, right? And I want you to look at the way this looks when we break out these market profile structures into a 30-minute chart, because that's all it is, right? It's a 30-minute chart collapsed horizontally into this uh, structure, so you can kind of see where the tough areas are and the areas of low penetration or development, right? So when we had this big move up, I want you to take a look at how this looks on the way down, right? So often what happens when you have these kind of moves, for sure they were driven by the higher time frame traders and fund buying. That wasn't the small pea shooters, right? So those kind of days, those trend days, you can't stand in front of. But what they did here is we took out the all-time highs at this point, right? And you can see we kind of tripped over our feet getting all the way up here. Well, on the way down, what happens is when the market starts to come down, it becomes very slippery because these are single prints, and you can see how, if you don't spend a lot of time there, what goes up fast comes down fast. So we have these single prints, right? Now we filled a good portion of the cave, I call it, where we went up pretty quick, but we didn't get down to this the top of the breakout, which we may not. Today's one of those days where you can't predict the which way the expiration will push these uh, levels in the stock index futures, right? But anyway, what we have here is the this yellow and this blue is the overnight session, right? The blue is Asia, and the blue is, or the yellow is, call it gold, yellow, whatever you want to call it, is Europe. You can see we made a higher low, did not take out the previous US session lows, which this is the US session low, or the US session here, right? So we're kind of keeping it a little bit bid at the moment, and the market's starting to come back to not far from unchanged on the day. So I think at this point you're going to see first a little bit of a move to fill in the cave from Europe, right? Let's just do this. I want to make sure you understand what I'm talking about. The pivot comes in at this 55.41. It's kind of the high of the value area from the overnight market. It's the low of Asia, and I think we could get above there. If we get above the pivot, then we go to the next level, which is kind of like the high volume node, and that would fill the cave, and that comes in at 47. And it could be a slow move back up into the middle of the range from yesterday. We'll see. But on a day like today, you take one data point at a time because it is quadruple witching day. I like that. All right. So for the time being, the market's going to probably try to work its way up a little, but don't count on us not testing this as well, because we still have some single prints, some low developed areas here, which we did fill in the NASDAQ yesterday, did not in the ES. Okay, so let's do this for a second here. I'm just going to bring up the NASDAQ just to show it. The differences here. Here's the NASDAQ, all these single prints, low developed areas, and we went down and we did take them out during the US session. Now you got a little bit of a non-confirmation in the ES where we didn't take out the US session, but we did in the NASDAQ. So you have a little bit of a difference between the two, and those two have been so correlated just because of these big NASDAQ stocks that are weighted in the S&Ps. 5 or 6 of them alone make up 25% of the weight of the S&P 500. That they've been very correlated. With that being said, let me do this real quick. Let's see here. Now let's just move here just for a second. So the S&P still look pretty good. You can't get bearish just because we had a big move. All that was just shaking out the week longs, and we have expiration. And we've had a very continuous move up, and this is just still in an uptrend. If we did get below the low from yesterday, then you can see that 25 area in ES, you could see the market then have an extension to the downside. I'm thinking we're not going to get there, but the short-term charts will let us know, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep an eye on it. Today's one of those days that you really can expect just about anything, and therefore we take one data point at a time, right? Later on, I'm going to get into looking at the markets deeper in the middle of the day if we get a little quiet, and we'll look at some weeklies, monthlies, and all the other markets that we look at. Which, speaking of, let's take a look at this crude here. The crude still looks good. We just took out our U.S. session highs from yesterday, which was the swing high, and we did do some sideways price overlap here last week, kind of trying to balance. And you could see how it's been like that. Here's a little balance, out of balance, in balance, and now here we are coming out of balance. And we have 5 days of higher highs now on the U.S. session highs, which is the most important for the crude futures. So it's very possible the crude is going to continue to rally. I'm looking at this 82, 30 to 40 area is probably where we're going. I don't see why not. The market looks good. We're making new highs, and we did have quite a lot of price overlap here, which now that we broke out of, if you look at this coil, and even look at the overnight session, a lot of coiling. Now we're above it. So you have to respect that we had this little sideways, could not back down, could not take out the previous U.S. session lows on this overnight, and now we're above all these highs. And so we're pretty much wide open. And I do feel like, when it's all said and done, maybe even next week, you could see the 86 level in the crude. But, well, again, since we're taking one day at a time, let's just concentrate on today and let's see if we can put in some money in the bank and catch some of these moves. 82.40, I think, is in play for the crude. Oh, let me do one thing. I meant to put this up. The pivot, though, just in the event that the market fails, it goes to the dark side. 80.65 to 70 is my pivot. I don't think we're getting there, but the pivot is just where I think the market can look a little ugly to the downside or flip in tone. All right, so let's take a look at this gold. Gold is looking pretty good. It was under pressure for quite a while, and then it just slowly worked its way up. And not an easy trade from the last 2 weeks. Previous 2 weeks, you could see the market had this back and forth kind of gyrations, very coil, like a big coil, because we went up. This has been really not an easy trade, right? But we finally took this high out, and you could see it gave us a little spring in our step, and now we're just heading up towards probably 23.93 is in play, I think, today. My pivot comes in at 23.71. 72 was a big area, and also it's yesterday's POC, which is point of control, but also the low of the value area from the overnight market. So I think it's important they get back below 23.71. More than likely we'll take out the overnight lows and come in and fill this cave. But I think the gold's going to first try to post some nice numbers to the upside. All right, so my pivot is 71. Let's take a look at this EC. It was an interesting day yesterday, I thought. And this EC is still under pressure. You can see that what happened here, the overnight session pretty much tested this swing low that we had back on the 14th, right? And, it could take that out and it could continue. I think it's under pressure, and you might just see a retest of the overnight lows. Hang on 1 second. In the morning right here. On the flip side, if they hold it and they start to catch a little bit of a bid, we did test the daily EMA here at 107.41, right around that area. And if they get back above the highs, this early morning highs, a push back up to the pivot is possible. 107.52. That's the point of control from yesterday. You can see all the levels that come in there. You've got this low, this rejection high, got point of control here. So it's a good area to watch if we get up there and maybe even get on the other side. Could go either way for the time being, because you have a little bit of a cave above here that the market might try to come into. Right? So we'll keep an eye on the EC. All right, let's go to the bonzos. Now, the bonds are still looking okay to me. I mean, I think I think they put in their lows for a little bit. This was a pretty decent swing low where they made a higher low. If you look back here, we've had this move up, back down into where we broke out, filled the cave, did a little bit of a balancing act, and then we took out those swing highs. So for the time being, I think we're in a balance area. We're trying to balance a little bit, right? So let me just do this. I'm going to highlight this so we can remind ourselves that, market is trying to do a little coil kind of a balanced area. Coils are generally where the market's trying to balance, and you have a lot of price overlap, or where you have a zigzag. And just like a spring, if you take a coil and you kind of try to twist it. You don't know which way it's going to go when you let go, right? So, the swing high would be maybe catch a continuation of the upside. If we get above 120.24, if we get below this swing low here of 1907, which was a big level, by the way, we tested it yesterday and held it. Then we can go the other way. But for the time being, we're kind of in the middle, just trading in the middle of this cave over here, right? You've got the ledge, in this area. That we could come back into the pivot of 119.28. 119.28, we would fill in the single prints, this tail, and it could flip if it goes below there. We could go to the other side, to the dark side, maybe a little bit. But I'm not that interested in this, in the bonds. I think the bonds are just going to do a little two-way trading. So if you do anything, you can, on a day like today, you can sell rallies and buy dips. It's not unless we break out of these levels, the swing high, or this is a high volume node, it's this low. We're not probably going to do a whole lot. So you can do some scalping back and forth. All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back to our main page. Now you can see, for those who are just guests at the moment, there's 3 charts you can look at. You can look at mine. We all post different things, so we're not redundant. You can look at Kyle's, 2 at a time, and then Linda's screen. So we have 3 different screens, and we'll see if we can call out some nice trades and get some money in the bank. And I wouldn't be married to either direction in the ES because of the quadruple witching day. So just let the market pull us in. All right, that's all I got for right now. I'm going to grab some coffee, get ready for the opening. We're going to open up in 9 minutes. And and to top it off, I just want to mention we have a couple numbers. 9:45. We have flash manufacturing PMI, which is kind of flagged as pretty important, and final services PMI. I would sit on my hands during those number releases, because the first 15 minutes is important anyway. We'll let the first 15 minutes come in, let the number come out, and then we'll assess what we want to do. And then we got existing homes at 10 o'clock, not as important. All right, let's rock and roll. I'll be back in a couple minutes. You're looking at my screens here. And if you're looking at my screens, it's you got the ES here and the NAS in the bottom. All right. Let's just, I'll